Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport, scooterwest.com here in San Diego, California. Today, got two GTSs here obviously. One thing about the mirrors, you either love or hate the lollipops. This is a brand new 2020 HPE equipped GTS. They still got the lollipops. A little bit updated style similar to the Primaveras, but we want to update the looks to a sportier look that matches these nice flat finish GTSs here. So we got something nice and affordable to offer. Part number MR-26 is for a pair of these sporty mirrors. I find they work very well. They're all made of thermoplastic, which is a good thing because they're not going to rust. I've showed you in some of my previous videos, you can go really high end with the Piaggio or Remus mirrors. There's some really high end mirrors out there. Some people don't want to spend into hundreds of dollars for the mirrors. But have this universal set. It works on all Vespas, you know, all the way from the vintage bikes. If you want this style on a vintage bike, it doesn't really go. Primaveras, Sprints, LX, and obviously a GTS. And I'm going to show you what's included with the kit and how to install them. Super duper easy to install. So only a few basic tools needed to install or change out the mirrors on your GTS. First of all, with the stock mirrors, only one tool needed. It's going to be the 17mm combination wrench. With the new style mirrors, they have a smaller lock nut, so I have a 14mm combination wrench. To tighten the threaded adapters that I used, you're going to need a 14mm socket. It can be a 3/8 or a 1/4 inch drive. And with those new style mirrors, both the adapter and the joint, whatever you want to call it, the elbow joint, you'll need a 5mm Allen key of some sort. You can go with something like a ball-ended T-handle like I have here, or just the basic little L-shaped Allen key, a hexagonal 5mm Allen key. Pretty basic tools. Should be easy to install for anybody that can just handle some basic tools. Change out the looks of your Vespa, whether you're tightening the mirror or upgrading the look to these MR-26 sport mirrors. So first of all, it's Sayonara, the old mirrors. You could sometimes just loosen them by hand like I did there. Typically you'll need a 17mm wrench to loosen the lock nut. A lot of people don't know how these work. I'm actually blowing it because I'm so used to the GTs that have always had standard left-hand threads for the left mirror. They have actually changed it on the 2020. So now it matches the Primaveras, Sprints, and many other scooters where they use a reverse thread on the left-hand mirror. And see how that one was pretty simple. Didn't even take a wrench to the lock nut on there. And just for your info, you know, with the stock mirrors, a lot of people don't understand how they tighten. You can see it obviously threads in. This device here threads onto a second set of threads. And the idea is you tighten the threads down and then you tighten this lock nut against it. And that's how you get the mirrors in position. Because if it didn't have something like this, the mirrors would be in whatever wonky state they want to be where they tighten. So that's how they work on the standard stock mirrors. A lot of people come in like, oh my gosh, my mirrors are loose. It's not that big a deal. So here's the MR-26 custom pair of black mirrors for all modern Vespas. Open up, see what kind of surprises we got. Of course, you get the pair of mirrors. And you can see they have a ball joint right here for the adjustability of the mirror. And you can turn that around. And then this joint right here can adjust. So if you want the mirrors to be like robot mirrors like that, like sticking up like robot ears, or if you want them more normal like that, you can do that. And you can go ahead and tighten this down once you get it into position you want. Pretty neat feature. The Piaggio mirrors I featured in the last, with my robot custom Vespa and that last titanium custom. They have a similar setup with an Allen key that locks the pivot right here. The reason these mirrors work so good on Vespas, they got this long stem. A lot of motorcycle specific mirrors don't have this extra stem. So you got a left and a right mirror. And along with the mirror, there's a bunch of adapters. It's a pretty cool setup. So you got the lock nut, much like the stock mirror, and you have many different threaded adapters for 8mm left-hand threads, right-hand threads. You got 10mm. You know, there's so many different variations of mirrors used on motorcycles. Vespas typically always use the 8mm, and sometimes they use the right-hand and left-hand threads. Sometimes they're just standard, you know, left-hand threads for both the right and left mirror. But I'll show you how to find out and what you need to install these on the GTS. Pretty straightforward. Here's another tip for the young players, new mechanics. You see that bolt? I don't know if the camera gets it. There's like a little slash in the nut right there. Typically that indicates it's a reverse thread nut. So anytime they put a slash in the edges of the nut, it will indicate that that's a reverse thread. You know, see how it works in the opposite direction. So that's how that works, just letting you know. So with any custom mirror, whether it's a bar end or a standard stem mount mirror, you need to figure out how to cover up the hole in the bodywork of the scooter. It's a pretty unsightly hole. Fortunately, if you have the old mirrors, which you typically do, whether they're broken or you just replace them for aesthetic reasons, go ahead and take the rubber boots right off. And they work perfect for other applications. So I'm going to salvage the 2 rubber boots. Pretty straightforward. So one thing with the Vespa GTS, the mirrors are pretty deep in the perches, which is the part of the lever in the master cylinder, and they call it a mirror perch, which is a threaded boss that supports the mirror. What I recommend using is a pair of spacers. For the 2020 model, you're going to need 2 different style spacers. This spacer is MR-81, and it's a standard threaded spacer. If you need the reverse threaded side, which is for the left, you're going to need MR-80-6. That's for 2020s. For anything older, you're going to want to go with MR-80-1, a pair of these on the GTSs. Sprints and Primaveras, this threaded boss is much higher in the bodywork. It's not needed with these mirrors. So pretty much you just take the adapter, this thread right in. That one's standard threads. That's the MR-80-1. And if you had an older model, you'd do a pair of those like I suggested. It is possible to use those mirrors. They'll just kind of sit a little lower if you don't use these adapters. Pretty inexpensive adapter. This is the reverse threaded one here. So get those started, pretty straightforward. This allows you to run, you know, most common motorcycle size mirrors. You see it's now a 10mm thread as well. So take a 14mm socket and go ahead and tighten. Reverse thread. Take care not to over tighten these. They will break. They're a little bit fragile when compared to a standard nut just because they're a hollow nut. But you want them tight enough where they're not going to have problems. One way to prevent them from coming loose, you could put a lock washer under there, or you could put a small amount of Loctite underneath the mirror. So I selected the 2 adapters that have the standard left-hand thread 10mm mirror perch, and then they have the Loctite equipped 8mm part. And there are a pair of them. There's also the reverse thread one, which we're not going to use. These adapters, the threads on these adapters are both 10mm. And what you want to take with these mirrors, the one thing about these mirrors is they're symmetrical between the left and right, and you can configure them whatever works the best. Go ahead and thread that into the end of the mirror. Take a 5mm Allen, and you can see there's some friction because there's like a Loctite on the end of these, and just snug it in there. And there's inside these mirrors, there's a metal insert, so you're not threading into plastic. So you see the metal insert in there. And again, if you're installing these on a Primavera, you want to select the 8mm adapters. You know, you could just test out the adapters. If you're not familiar with the sizes of the threads, just test out the adapters, see if they thread into your into the mirror bosses that you're going to install these on. So, you know, you can test it out. See it's obviously threading in. Just showing you how that works there. Want to take one of your rubber boots. You know, this is going to be the left-hand side rubber boot. And so what I find is you could kind of fold it over. So go ahead and thread the mirror in, just spinning it right around. So mirror right over the grip is a good starting point. Then now you have this lock nut that's a little loose, and go ahead and just give it a little snug right there. And see how the mirror goes up and down? That's all personal preference. If you want it tucked in a little bit more and up high, or if you want it out furthest, close to the grip, you know, depends on your personal preference, however you want to set that. And once you get that set into position, 5mm Allen again, go ahead and tighten that, and go ahead and roll the rubber boot right over. Works pretty good. And again, it is possible to use these mirrors without the adapters, but I find with the GTS, the adapters put the mirrors in a better position. And say you're to a point where you can't go, you go back one, flip it around, there you go, now it's in the right position. And it looks approximately where I want it. And if you wanted to really figure out how they're installed, you could take a tape measure, go between the grip, get exactly where you want it, where it looks perfectly symmetrical. I'll just call that good enough for now. Roll the rubber boot over, and there we go. Pretty simple to install. Kind of drastically changes the looks of your Vespa. These mirrors look great on a Sprint because they got that kind of trapezoid look. Have quite the sporty look on the GTS here. Installed on the 2020 HPE Super Sport, along with a pair installed on this flat black 2019 Vespa Notte. So I hope that video gives some people some ideas of custom things you could do super easy to your Vespa. Whether you're going for the standard sportier look that replace those lollipops that are included with your Vespa, or you want to go robot style, just like that. I don't know, you can look at yourself in there. Pretty neat. Until next time, it's a Robot here from Vespa Motorsport here in San Diego. Visit our store if you're in town. 3955 Pacific Highway, right across the street from the freeway, downtown San Diego. Check out our web store, scooterwest.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have well over 400 videos pertaining to both modern and vintage Vespas. I've been doing this for over 10 years with the videos, and I'm pretty excited. Subscribers are, I'm over 50,000 subscribers on the channel. I don't think there's any other Vespa related channel that has that many subscribers. So that's a pretty exciting milestone. I know I wish I could say it's 1 million, but Vespas, they're unique for a reason, and the people that are into them know why they're special. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Vespa Motorsport. See you next time, Robot here.